Well, the low effort joke video I made in an hour is doing better than all the other videos I made, so I figured I'd make another one while I'm still working on my next big project. And this one's not about payday again, it's about something I'm actually much more passionate about. And people unironically actually liked my last video. I think the joke flew over some people's heads, but I decided I'd make another funny video about stupid Steel Path builds, and I swear I'm not just gonna put Wrathful Advance on 3 Warframes again. This time it's going to be Nourish I put on 3 Warframe. This is different than the last video because not everything in this video is bad. A great example is the first build is going to be about hydroid, who is actually really good now. It's crazy to think that we live in a timeline where hydroid's actually good now. It's crazy, he's been shit almost my entire life. But the main thing with Nourish and why it's so good is because it's a 3 abilities in 1. If you don't remember, before Grendel's rework, the way Nourish worked is it was 3 different buffs, and you would have to activate them each independently. So, in the Grendel rework, they just mashed them all together. As you can see through Helmet, it is nerfed, but it's only nerfed as in it doesn't heal you. Because, yeah, it also heals Grendel when he does it, because he needs to have someone in his belly to use this ability, but that mechanic doesn't exist with Helmet. Because this ability gives you 3 buffs, I wanted to be cute and have a different build focused on each of the 3 different buffs it gives you, but one of the buffs is just gain more energy, and I can't really think of a build where you use Nourish to fix your energy problems. Like, it helps, but it's not really going to be what you use to replace something like Energize. So instead I'm just going to focus on the other parts. This build is focusing on the main purpose of this ability, and that is just the raw vital damage it gives your weapons. And we're using Hydroid because he gets raw corrosive damage with all of his weapons. The weapon of Showcase is not the 10 Plasmor, although I am still going to show the build because someone in the last video wanted the build. This is the build I was using in the last video, and this by itself is just good enough to solo Steel Path. But the main focus of this is the Aki Core, which, with this new augment that was in the last Nightwave, this weapon is insane. If you didn't get this augment, play better, I guess, Lamau. This augment single-handedly makes this weapon, like, insane. We'll show you. As you can see, we don't have viral or corrosive on this because Hydroid is going to provide both of those. Normally, I would run this because it gives you viral, but because we're using Nourish, we don't need viral modded on our gun. The Sentinel is again the same as the last video, just a generic Nautilus using Cordon, and same with the Hellstrom just to apply status, although I have actually formatted this time and put more fire rate on it. Wow. The melee I'm using is going to be a Za using Exodia Brave. I don't really have anything of like the new stuff with Prisoners in the Walls. It's not really going to be used. The only real time I will ever use this is just for energy, but you could also just use a pizza, so it doesn't really matter. I should also probably actually show the Hydroid build. It's this. So I don't have Arcane Blessing max just because I just never maxed it. It is really good on this because this extra max health is basically just a better vitality. Combine that with adaptation and the armor we will get through Plunder, and we'll just have insane amounts of armor. We are using Pilfering Swarm to still just have it, and this plus Equilibrium because we're getting extra loot from this. It means we're getting more orbs, so Equilibrium is good. If you aren't going to be running Pilfering Swarm, replacing the 4 with Nourish is better, so you can still have Tidal Surge for like cleansing status and stuff. But most people are going to want to run Pilfering Swarm just to have more loot because it is a loot game. This is mostly just the Aki Core being insane, as it is just obliterating everything. It is a really good status and also crit weapon. It just does both of them at the same time. And because we're applying 2 statuses from our abilities alone, we can focus on applying status, or different statuses and different stats with our weapon mods. We have a lot of multi-shot and fire rate modded on, just to trigger those statuses even faster. This weapon is insane. Yeah, this weapon just kills everything. This augment is so stupid. Well, you don't even really need Nourish for this, if you just use Viral, but it just makes this build so much better. Alright, time to test this against the Acolyte. The Acolyte is immune to Hydroid's armor strip because they have a cap of, or their cap of how many corrosive procs they can have is less than normal, but we'll see. Where are they? There they are. Oh, it's violence too. Alright, so it's not really super dying. Yeah. So this is why you probably want to bring something good for killing Acolytes, like this melee. There we go. So yeah, that's the Hydroid build. This Ocucore mod is insane, and I'm really sorry if you didn't get it in the last Nightwave. This build is the only one that's going to actually have a bad Warframe, and that's Caliban. He's not really that bad, he's just kind of forgettable, because, like, why would you play him when you could play, like, anything else? Instead of using just the flat damage that Nourish gives you, we're going to actually be using a different mechanic of Nourish, and that is that when you get hit while it's active, you release a pulse of viral. And not only when you take damage does this trigger, but when your allies take damage that you give Nourish, this also triggers on them too. And because Caliban has summons that you can give Nourish, whenever they get hit, they will spread viral to everything. This is the Caliban build, and we are specifically using Combat Discipline and Avenger. Combat Discipline, whenever you get a kill, you'll take damage, which can proc Avenger. Taking damage also triggers the Nourish explosion. The important part of this build is we have Blind Rage on, and we also have one red Crimson ability strength shard. We use this so we can get over 200% strength to have this full strip. Without, you need something to have more than just one mod on, and one Archon shard is good enough. Like, it'd be better. I think it's better than using like Intensify here, or Augmented, or just having to use Matter Strength every time you want to press 4. But you can do that if you don't want to. The shard is just for comfort. The weapon that we're going to be using is the Sobek, a weapon that really honestly needs either a Kuva variant or an Incarnon adapter, because it's really old and has a really cool gimmick with a certain augment, but it's just not super great. But we're going to be using it here because when everything has viral, this is actually really good. And the thing with this weapon is acid shells. This makes it so when you kill an enemy, they explode on death, and they deal percentile damage of their max health. So we're using a pretty generic status build using the Syndicate mod as well. And we're just going to be shotgunning things and just spreading viral to everything and exploding everything. This weapon struggles to kill things that aren't armor stripped, so it's pretty annoying otherwise, but this build, if you're like me and you like the Sobek, this is a way to make the Sobek good. This is mostly a Sobek build rather than a Caliban build, honestly. It doesn't have that great fire rate, so using a companion mod to gain fire rate is nice. As you can see, the Sobek isn't like super great, even so, with all this. It would be better to just use whatever gun you like that's like good. For example, Lex and Carnon. Like, this is just better. But I like the Sobek, so I want to have a reason to use it. And like, honestly, this build is like probably as best you're gonna get if you really want to use a Sobek. Like, yeah, I can kill groups, but it's not great at it. So the last build wasn't super great, so we're going to be using the gimmick of giving Nourish to our allies and have it be better. And we're going to be using Revenant. And a Revenant also has allies that you can make with Enthrall. These are treated as allies, but you can still damage them, which means when you give them Nourish and you shoot them, they release the viral wave. But even though they're an ally, it doesn't hit you, even though you're the one that hit them, it still affects enemies. So you can shoot your own thralls to release the viral waves, which is really good. We're also going to be using Thrall Pact to have even more damage. This is the build. Also has Mesmer Shield just because it's stupid. It makes all your allies invincible, and you just get even more Mesmer Skin charges. But we just want a bunch of strength, and a good amount of duration, and a decent amount of range to give the wave more range, and also make it easier to affect our thralls with the 4 as well. But thing to note, Thrall Pact only affects primary damage, so this build is mostly about your primary weapon, although just using Nourish on Revenant is good enough because Nourish is really stupid and Revenant is also really good. We're also using the Combat Discipline Avenger combo to have even more crit chance and the viral wave. And Combat Discipline still procs even through a Mesmer Skin, so we will be taking some damage, but we're going to be getting so many assist kills with our companion that there's going to be an infinite orb, so you don't even need to press 5 to heal. This is the primary I used. This is the build. It's just a pretty good build to run Karn on. These are the mods. No, not the mods, the evolutions. But you could just use whatever primary you like. This is mostly just a guns buffing build, because everything's just going to have viral and we're just getting more damage, and because of Revenant we're immortal. Alright, so now we're going to thrall up a bunch of enemies. I'm going to press 4 to give them all the thing. Now we're just going to shoot. And everything's dying. Whenever we kill enemies, we're just releasing a bunch of viral. And it's just a generic, this is basically just like whatever gun buffer weapons platform build you can think of on like Gauss or whatever. But not as good. You trade the funniest number possible with having Mesmer Skin, which is better in a lot of cases because you literally just don't need to think. Hey look, it's the Acolyte. No, it's not. I don't really have much else to say for this build, other than it's really good because it's just Revenant, but he does even more damage. So those are 3 more builds where I just use the same ability again. I don't know why I did the same joke again. If you really want me to make a 3rd one of these, I can. It's probably just going to be Gloom or Roar because I don't know what else I can do. But yeah, subscribe I guess. I don't know. These videos suck. Why do you watch this?